Alright, so I'm going to do a service on this 410K. It's like over 22 something. So I'm going to do a 1,000-hour service, basically. It's going to be fuel filters, oil filter, transmission filter, and transmission fluid. And you can change the air filters if you want, but I'll probably just blow them out because they usually don't get too dirty with what we're doing. So you gotta need 1540 or the, what is it, plus 52 oil. So we're using 15W40. You get the plus 52 John Deere fluid, or I'm using the D-Low 15W40 SDE. They say that this is an equivalent to that. I know it is for the Volvo. It doesn't list anything for John Deere, but I asked them and they said it was, so we'll go with it is. So we're going to change the two filters. Here's a filter that's on there, the fuel filter, and the other one, fuel filter. There is a crankcase ventilation filter inside here that needs to be changed every once in a while. I think it's 3,000 hours. I already had to change that once because it set a code for high crankcase pressure. So that one's been changed. So these are the filters that I'm going to be using. The Napa filters. This is the water separator. They both say water separator, but I think one's more of a, I think this was more of a primary and that's a secondary. Here's the oil filter. So I pre-filled the oil filter. I do not pre-fill the fuel filters. Here's the oil filter that goes with this. So what I do when I'm draining this is I made up like a little funnel thing. So I just cut the top of a washer bottle off, and I use that as a funnel to kind of direct the oil out of the oil pan, because it's got the skid plate under it. So you got the skid plate right here, and there's your oil plug right there. So what I do is I just come down here and then I stick that funnel right here, and it catches the oil so it doesn't go all over the skid plate, and it directs it into the catch pan that I have there. So you got the oil filter right here is what I'm taking out. I'm using one of these filter wrenches that angle a little bit, because you can't really get in there unless you have one that angles. You can make it work if you have to, but I would rather just get the angle one, make it a little bit easier on myself. Stick it down here. The oil filters, you don't really have too much trouble with them getting all fluid everywhere. Can you see it? Right there. Alright. So the oil filters, they don't really leak that much. They kind of just top off and then they stay there. And they seal an O-ring around the outside. They don't have an O-ring on the internal threads. They don't have an O-ring that goes flat. So, see, they don't really run out so much until, well, let's see if it happens right now. Maybe it'll make me eat my words, but usually you can take these off and they don't spill all over the place. It's dripping on me a little bit, but for the most part, it ain't too bad. That is why towards the winter you'll see me wear a coat that is just pretty dirty. It does. It gets dirty pretty quick. If I wore a new one every day, I'd be all out of coats. The drain plug is a 15/16 drain plug. That's the oil. So I'm gonna go up and I'm gonna fill the oil, change the fuel filters, and then I'll empty this pan out. I will change the transmission fluid. I gotta wait for a filter to come for that. So this takes a CJ4 oil, and I think it's gonna take about 3 gallons. Not exactly sure. We'll find out. I filled the filter, so we gotta subtract that. All right, so this engine takes, I think it's a 4.5, 3 gallons total. So I put 2 gallons, 3 quarts in, and I'm right at the full mark, and I filled the filter. So I'm pretty sure it's 3 gallons total. So here's that. Alright, so it's kind of a funky angle, but that's about as good as I can make it. Oh, maybe not. Yeah, it might be a little better. Alright. So, you got these collars on here. You're just gonna turn the collar, and then they slide down and off. I can leave it on. Pull that down. Fill fuel. Usually I'll put a cup or something under there to catch them, but there's no room to get anything under there. Put your thumb over the hole so you will spill a little bit. Kind of lubricate this one. You could drain it too, with the little drain on the bottom, but it is what it is. Collar on. Now these kind of got notches in them, so they can only really go in a certain way. There's a little wiggle room to them, but generally they only go one way. Yeah, they go in there, pretty much lock into place. You get a little click there. So, let's see. Got a water and fuel sensor on this one, so you're going to want to unplug that. Little red lock on there. pull it up. There it is. Push that in. Is that? I'll go drain some of the fuel out of this one, maybe. Hard part's getting anything in there. Not really. Is that? So this one, you got to change over this bowl onto this. You just take the, unscrew this, and then put that on. There's an O-ring in the bottom of this we got to change. Yeah. Leave that there to kind of drain into. And what we're going to do is we're going to take this off and transfer it over. Alright, this is how I do this, because these can get pretty tight because it's like a big rubber section, so they'll get stuck on there. So what I do is I take one of these filter wrenches, stick that in the thing like there, and then we'll just kind of get her turning. It should come right off. That's how I do that. So like I say, inside here there'll be I need 2 hands because that's going to leak. But inside there's an O-ring you got to change. Alright, so we get this change the O-ring. Let's see that. It's a R21, I guess. That's what it said in the kit. So take this off, remove this one. While this does have an O-ring, it is not the same. Take this, rid this guy on. Tight. Did I do that? Let's see if I go over. Okay, just walk across. Yeah. Pull that out. Pull that out. Yeah. So big notch goes back. Click. Plug our water and fuel sensor in. Flick our little lock tab down. Now your fuel filters are changed. So this particular John Deere has an electric fuel pump on it. So you don't have to prime them. If you were to prime it, you got these little bleeders here. Being this is the primary, you'd want to probably bleed it down here on the secondary is what I would usually do. Then you pump it through. That's how I would bleed it. I read the book. I'm pretty sure I just turn the key on or turn the power on a couple of times and fills it up. So let's see if that's what happens. right there. Can you see? There's a ball. Let's see if it fails a bowl. That filled up pretty quick. So all I did was turn the ignition on. Basically, I hit the on button. So we'll do that a couple of times so the pump shuts off, and then it should be good. All right, so now you can tell it just got fuel. You can hear bubbles in the tank. So, got no more bubbles coming out. I'm gonna guess we're probably full of fuel. Try to start it. So there is how you change your oil in your fuel filters. So I don't have the filter for the transmission yet, but I shall show you where it is. It's right there. That is transmission filter right there. So you'll remove that, replace that, and we'll find your drain. Uh-oh. So right there's your drain to drain your transmission. So that's how you would drain that and do that. In case you're wondering, here's your drain for your rear axle. And I imagine that's the fill for the rear axle. And I don't know what that is. I think that might be something to do with the brakes. I'm not exactly sure. Yeah. Air hydraulic filter is going to be right here. That's your hydraulic filter right above your rear axle. And yeah. So once you drain it, your fill tube is right here for your transmission. So pretty easy. And you can do that, and obviously your air filter going to be in there. I would usually try to blow out the radiators and stuff with compressed air from behind, like forward. Try to get the dirt and stuff out of that. If you've got a front driven axle, you got your drain and your fill, so you would keep that down like that to drain it, and then you get this line here. That line needs to be level, so then you would rotate the wheel so the plug's right here, and then you would fill that with whatever type of gear oil you're going to use for your front planetary. And then you've got probably a couple on the front. Some plugs on the front axle. Yeah, so there's your plug for your drain on the front axle. And then your fill is going to be right there. So, and we got some grease fittings and stuff inside the front drive right there. I don't know if you can see it kind of sticking up right there. So that's a cap. You pull that cap off and then you can grease that. There ain't too many greasable joints on this. I mean, except on like the loader and the back. All those have obviously greasable joints, but for like just like tractor type greasable joints, there ain't many. So there's that one. There's the one here for the front, I don't know, trunnion or pivot. I don't know if there's one on each side. No. Well, anyway, so that's about what you do there. So there's other, obviously, service intervals. I think 6,000 hours, do your coolant, or change your coolant. I don't know. So it's oil and filter every 500 hours. This is kind of what I go by. Trans fluid, trans filter, hydraulic filter, air filters, 1,000 hours. The crankcase filter, front wheel drive oil, axle oil, or planetary sets, and then axle oils at 2,000 hours. Valve lash at 3,000, and coolant, drain and fill at 6,000. This thing just takes a 3/8 ratchet or square drive. Alright, so I'm going to let this drain until it stops draining, and I'll put the plug in. I'll film that and move over to the filter now. So, let's try to get this out. big chunk of salt fall in my mouth. Sometimes I feel like that's how it goes. Why? Something broken? Oh.
Cold in here.
Yeah. So I'm using high guard. This calls for high guard in the axles, the mechanical front wheel drive, and transmission, or the J20C or J20D class, whatever it is. So I'm putting it in this jug here. The way I get it out of the 5-gallon container, because it does get heavy and hard to hold, is I turn it on its side, take the cap off, and I will rotate it till it comes out into a funnel, into that, and then it just kind of makes it a lot easier. You rotate it, comes out, and then you turn it back when you're done. So that's kind of how I get them out of the 5-gallon containers. I believe it takes 4 gallons, but I'm not exactly sure. So I got another one of these gallon containers, so I'm gonna take the drain pan and I'm just gonna put a gallon in at a time and measure out what came out, and then I'll put in what came out. So I pre-fill the filter first. That's the part number for, or the filter number, 84201. Alright, so I ended up putting 3 gallons and 2 quarts in the transmission, and I filled the filter, and that took about a quart, so probably 3 gallons and 3 quarts in there. So I mean, it all depends on like how much comes out, if any gets stuck in the transmission. So I mean, you figure you get yourself 4 gallons for the transmission and filter. It might take 4 after a while, driving it around and just checking the level. I don't want to overfill it, so it might take 4 eventually, once I keep an eye on it and I feel comfortable putting the next quart in, or it might not matter that much. But basically I use 3 gallons, 3 quarts. So this is the filter, the 83161. It is the side one right there. So that's, you got a key to get it out. Come on. Yeah. Trying to do it with one hand. Yeah. Anyway, this is a filter. John Deere number is AT191102. Look about the same, right? Yeah, that'll work. Yeah. That in there. Yeah. All set. I had changed the cabin filter not too long ago, so I'm not going to worry about that. So, anyway, hope that can help somebody. Thanks for watching.